Hi there, welcome. Enjoy what you're about to watch. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications. Jack arrived home just before 1 a.m. The flight he booked at the last moment had been delayed, and the layover in Denver only deepened his fatigue. He hadn't told anyone he was returning on Friday, 2 days ahead of schedule. He wanted to surprise Claire. The seminar had wrapped up earlier than expected, and deep down, he simply wanted to see her again. He felt a growing distance between them and believed this unexpected return might help close the gap. Despite being drained, he drove straight from the airport to their house, a faint smile on his face as he imagined her surprise when she opened the door. But as he stopped in front of the house, something felt wrong. Everything was dark. Completely silent. At first, he thought she might already be asleep. But the moment he stepped out of the car, he sensed something wasn't right. The garage door was open, and Claire's car was missing. His chest tightened. He tried to reason with himself. Maybe she'd gone to a pharmacy, or she was with a friend. He went inside without turning on the lights, walked straight into the hallway, and froze in the dim glow. The silence was so heavy that each step echoed loudly. He pulled his phone from his pocket and called her. Claire answered on the second ring, her voice slow, as though she had just woken up. "Hello. Hi, love. Did I wake you?" She inhaled deeply, forcing a natural tone. "I was asleep. Yes. I'm already closing my eyes again." Jack stayed quiet for 2 seconds, steadying his breathing. "Are you at home?" Claire replied without hesitation. "Of course I am, Jack. Where else would I be at this hour?" Without answering right away, he walked toward their bedroom. He scanned the dark space, fully aware she wasn't there. "All right," he said calmly. "I just wanted to hear your voice. I'm going to sleep. I'll be back on Sunday." "Oh, okay then. I love you. Sleep well. Good night, Claire." He ended the call before she could say anything else and stood there, phone still in his hand. Every word she had spoken pounded in his mind. She had lied, completely unaware that he was standing in their bedroom while she claimed to be asleep in it. The realization hit him hard, knocking the ground out from beneath him. This wasn't doubt anymore. It wasn't instinct. It was a lie. Cold. Direct. Effortless. Jack took a deep breath, slipped his phone into his pocket, and sat on the edge of the stairs. He rubbed his face, trying to recall the last time Claire had been truly open with him. Suddenly, everything made sense. The distance. The excessive work dinners. The abrupt mood swings. The odd laughter on phone calls that stopped the moment he came near. None of it had been random. The house felt like an empty stage. He looked around, and everything carried the weight of what once was, a place where he had built a life, now resembling the set of someone else's story. And the worst part was how easily she had lied, her voice calm, as if she were genuinely wrapped in blankets. But she wasn't. And he knew it. As he crossed the living room in silence, his attention was drawn to something on the coffee table. A wristwatch, large, gold, with a blue dial and a black leather strap. Flashy. Impossible to ignore. Slowly, he bent down and lifted it with both hands, as if afraid of what it represented. He recognized it instantly. It was the same watch he had seen on Derek Coleman's wrist, Claire's boss, at a company dinner the year before. No one else wore anything that extravagant. In that instant, everything snapped into place like a brutal. Derek had been in his house. And somehow, he had left the watch behind. This was no longer speculation. It was evidence. The betrayal now had a face, a name, and a forgotten object that screamed everything Claire had tried to conceal with her sleepy voice minutes earlier. Jack lay down without removing his shoes and stared at the ceiling. His heart, which had been racing, now felt heavy. It didn't hurt yet. But something inside him was shifting. He had always been fair, calm, a man who believed in conversation. This time, it wouldn't be through words. If she had the nerve to lie so smoothly, he would have the resolve to reveal the truth, and no one would see it coming. Just as she never imagined, he was only feet away, hearing every lie with his eyes wide open in the dark. Jack woke early that Saturday with the plan already firmly set. The watch left on the table the night before was still there, a silent witness to the betrayal. He stared at it briefly before placing it in a small box and tucking it into the bottom drawer of his desk. He knew it didn't need to be displayed. Words would be unnecessary once everything unfolded. He sat quietly for a few minutes, gathered his thoughts, and began making calls. That Saturday morning, using the calm tone of someone who didn't want to arouse suspicion, Jack called Claire and told her he had made an online purchase that would be delivered to the house that day. He asked if she would be there to receive it. Claire, still casual, replied that she planned to leave early and spend the day with her sisters since it was Saturday and they were going shopping and having lunch together. Jack pretended to hesitate before asking if she could be home around 8 o'clock to make sure the delivery arrived. Claire agreed without much thought, said she would arrange it and be back by then. Jack thanked her and ended the call. As soon as he hung up, a slight smile crossed his face and he stood up. Now that he knew exactly when the house would be empty, he set the plan he had been crafting since dawn into motion. His first call was to Claire's parents. He told them he had prepared a surprise tribute for Claire at home, something intimate yet very special. He mentioned celebrating her dedication to volunteering, referencing a social project she had participated in years earlier. It had only been once, when she helped organize a winter clothing drive, but it sounded noble enough to convince anyone. Her mother was deeply touched. Her father, more reserved, thanked him and confirmed they would attend. Jack kept his voice steady and controlled, as if everything were perfectly normal. With each acceptance, his resolve grew stronger. He then called Claire's two sisters, Sarah and Michelle, repeating the same story and choosing words that fit the image everyone had of Claire, the helpful daughter always involved in good causes. Both were enthusiastic and said they would buy something special for the occasion. Next came her friends, Amanda, Lisa, and Rachel. Jack knew exactly who to include, those closest to Claire, the people she trusted most. Every call was made with precision. One by one, the invitations were accepted. No one suspected a thing. Everyone believed they were about to celebrate a generous, devoted woman admired for her kindness. Jack listened to every confirmation with a cold calmness. As the guest list came together, he turned to another crucial part of the plan. Claire wasn't the only target. Derek had to be involved as well. And with him, his wife Julie Coleman, the most sensitive element of the strategy. If Julie showed up, everything would take on a new dimension. For that, Jack needed the right story. He called Julie with an enthusiastic yet respectful tone. "Julie, it's so great to talk to you. I have wonderful news. I organized a surprise tribute for Claire at our house. But there's a second part that involves you and Derek." "Derek?" Julie asked. "But he traveled yesterday. He's not back until Monday." Jack knew Derek had lied. "Yes, I know. But I convinced him to come back early. He loved the idea. I bought the ticket and arranged everything. Don't tell anyone, it's a double surprise." Julie laughed lightly on the other end, proud and amused. "Oh my God, how sweet. He didn't tell me anything." "Exactly," Jack said. "That's the point. A night to celebrate both of you, and especially Claire." "Of course I'll be there," Julie replied. "I wouldn't miss it for anything." He thanked her and ended the call. Setting the phone down, he stood still for a few seconds. That conversation finalized everything. Julie would be Claire's mirror that night. And when the reflection appeared, the real image would be impossible to hide. Jack didn't need to argue or raise his voice. He only needed to show the truth. Let everyone see who Claire and Derek really were behind their polished smiles and professional courtesy. He bought ready-made snacks, ordered desserts, and picked up a variety of drinks. Nothing extravagant. The goal was to make it seem like a simple gathering. In the backyard, he quietly arranged everything. A large table, enough chairs, and soft hanging lights. He instructed guests to enter through the back and remain silent until the right moment, explaining that the surprise would only work if Claire was completely caught off guard. The most dangerous part of the plan depended on one thing. Claire couldn't know he was home. More than that, she had to believe he was still away. Based on the call from the night before, Jack was certain she did. That gave him the opportunity for her to repeat the same mistake. He was almost sure she would return that night with Derek. Maybe not to do what they had done before, but they would be together. She believed the house was empty. And that was enough. The day dragged on slowly, every minute heavier than the last. Jack handled every detail with precision. He reviewed the guest list, prepared ambient audio, and left the front door unlocked. Everything was ready for a silent performance, a single act where the masks would fall without him uttering a word. He picked up his phone again and began sending messages to the guests. He asked everyone to arrive exactly at 6 o'clock, with one important condition. They had to park on nearby streets and walk to the house. He explained that maintaining the surprise required Claire to notice nothing unusual as she approached. No crowded cars, no honking, no loud conversations at the gate. Everyone was to enter quietly through the unlocked back gate. No one hesitated. Everyone agreed enthusiastically, believing they were about to be part of a beautiful celebration. And they would be, just not in the way they imagined. Jack spent the late afternoon adjusting every detail, like a director preparing a stage. He arranged snacks, sodas, beers, and simple desserts on the backyard table. He positioned the chairs carefully, managing the rising tension in his chest. From time to time, he checked his phone, glanced at the clock, and replied to guests, reinforcing the rules. Complete silence, cars parked far away, entry through the back gate. No noise. No applause. No lights. The surprise had to be flawless. The first guests arrived precisely at 6 o'clock, just as planned. They walked in quietly, some even removing their shoes out of respect for the plan. Jack greeted them with a subtle gesture and guided them toward the backyard. Quiet murmurs passed between a few guests, all wondering how Claire might respond to such an unexpected gesture. Everyone present had arrived with good intentions, prepared to witness another emotional display of affection and appreciation. What none of them realized was that the evening would not end in applause, but instead in a truth so powerful it would remain burned into their memories forever. As people discreetly gathered in the backyard, Jack mentally rehearsed his plan. He knew Claire believed he was away on a business trip. He also knew she expected to return to an empty house, and that was exactly the scenario he wanted. An open stage for her to repeat the mistake, to once again believe she was untouchable. At around 7:30, Jack took his position in the hallway. From there, he had a partial view of the living room. The rest he monitored through the narrow opening between the curtain and the glass door that separated the house from the backyard. His phone was already in his hand, camera ready, waiting to capture the precise moment. The lock clicked. The front door slowly opened. They walked in laughing, sharing the easy closeness of people who believed they were completely safe. Derek's arm wrapped around Claire's waist, and she playfully nudged him away, smiling. They kissed before even bothering to close the door. Claire slipped off her coat and tossed it onto the couch. Derek, moving with youthful impatience, began undoing the buttons of his shirt. They were fully absorbed in each other, carried by the confidence of those who believe the darkness shields them from consequence. Hidden in the hallway, Jack felt his heart pounding, but he didn't falter. He waited. The instant Derek stepped forward again and Claire reached for his hand, Jack forcefully slid open the glass door. The sharp sound of the track echoed through the room. What followed was complete silence. Every guest standing in the softly lit backyard stared in disbelief, as if time itself had frozen. Julie, Derek's wife, reacted first. She screamed his name with a force that sounded like it tore her throat open. She stepped forward, then stopped abruptly, stunned by what she saw. Derek's face drained of color. Claire's eyes widened in horror. She spun around, desperately grabbing the coat from the couch to cover herself, but it was already too late. The truth stood fully exposed. All those who thought they knew this couple were now witnessing what existed behind the carefully maintained masks. Claire tried to rush toward the bedroom, but Julie's screams stopped her cold. Her mother's shocked stare, her father's look of disgust, and the unmistakable disappointment in her sister's eyes rooted her to the spot. She turned as if to speak, but no sound came. Shame flooded her face faster than tears ever could. Jack didn't move. He filmed everything in silence, his hands steady. There were no accusations, no dramatic speeches, only reality, raw and undeniable, revealed exactly as she had chosen to live it. And now, there was no erasing it. Julie cried, but her sobs were tangled with fury and frustration. She hurled words at Derek that he had never heard from her before, sentences that sounded as though they had been trapped in her chest for years. He tried to explain, stumbling over excuses, but each word only made things worse. Claire stood frozen in the center of the living room, mechanically trying to cover herself, though it no longer mattered. With every passing second, the weight of humiliation grew heavier. Her sisters exchanged stunned glances, unable to comprehend the scene. Her mother, sobbing, covered her face and turned away. Her father remained rigid and silent, his expression hard, as though clinging to the last fragment of dignity amid the unthinkable. Jack stood by the open door, his phone still raised but no longer recording. Slowly, he lowered his arm and looked directly at Claire. She tried to speak, but her voice failed her. Their eyes locked for a brief moment, and in that silence, everything was understood. She knew what it meant. She knew it was over. The cruelest part wasn't rage or destruction. Jack didn't shout, didn't break anything, didn't beg for explanations. He simply revealed the truth. He gave her the living, undeniable consequence of her choices. Claire finally fled to the bedroom. Julie continued yelling at Derek, her voice shaking the room. The guests began leaving in quiet waves, some embarrassed, others still in shock. Claire's father left without a word. Her mother was gently guided out by her daughters, saying nothing. As hushed voices and tense looks faded away, Jack sat down at the backyard table. He opened a beer, took a slow sip, and breathed as though closing a chapter of his life. A few minutes later, Claire appeared in the hallway, now dressed, her makeup streaked across her face. She moved toward him, but Jack lifted his hand, signaling he didn't want to talk. She pressed on anyway, insisting it wasn't what it seemed, claiming he was always absent, always consumed by work, that she felt alone. Jack stood, met her gaze, and replied firmly, "You had 7 years to tell me that. Instead, you chose to lie and bring another man into our home. Your choice is not my responsibility." She had no response. He turned and went upstairs. Inside the bedroom, he locked the door and collapsed onto the bed fully clothed, staring at the ceiling as if searching for a single memory worth holding on to. None came. The next morning, the house was silent. Claire had left before sunrise. No note, no message, no apology. Jack stood for hours staring at his hands, amazed at how the body keeps moving even when the soul is shattered. Eventually, he showered, cleaned the kitchen, and threw away the remnants of the party, as if erasing not just the mess, but the life they had built together. He called a colleague and requested time off, explaining he needed to tend to his own life. Then he disconnected from everything. That night, he sat alone in the living room, facing the weight of his decision. The pain remained, but alongside it was an unexpected relief, like removing a tumor with his own hands. 2 days later, Claire stood at the front door of the house where everything had collapsed. Her swollen eyes told of sleepless nights, but Jack remained unmoved, offering her no invitation inside. She asked for just a few minutes. She said she wasn't there to beg. She admitted the extent of the damage she had caused. Her voice trembled as she explained she had requested a transfer and was moving far away to another city. She couldn't bear the whispers, the looks, the judgment at work. She wanted to start over. She claimed that what happened with Derek didn't go beyond that night, that it was an impulsive mistake she had already been regretting even before being exposed. She said they hadn't spoken since. Derek, she added, had separated from Julie, who left without looking back. But Claire insisted there was no continuation, no affair, no secret relationship, only guilt and remorse. Jack listened without interruption, his expression guarded, like someone who had already endured enough truth. After a pause, he took a breath and said calmly that regret only arrives when consequences do. That real choices are made when no one is watching. And that she was now trying to clean up something she had dirted herself. When she asked if time might ever heal things, he stopped her. He told her that when trust dies, love dies with it, and that the image of her with Derek would never leave his mind because she was the one who brought that betrayal into their home. She stood silently, waiting, hoping. But Jack simply crossed his arms and said, "You made your choice. I only showed what you tried to hide." Claire nodded, turned around, and walked away. No scenes. No promises. No goodbye. In the days that followed, Jack returned to his routine with a different kind of peace. He reorganized the house, removed old photographs, and rearranged drawers. Each small action marked the end of a chapter. He took time off work, went on walks, reconnected with old friends, and learned how to exist in silence again. There was relief, like the calm after a storm, space to breathe. Some time later, Julie reached out. Her message was brief but genuine. "Thank you for opening my eyes," Jack replied. They met for coffee in a quiet place and spoke with the understanding of two people who didn't need explanations. She had sold her house and was staying with her sister. They rarely mentioned Derek or Claire. The past was acknowledged, but it no longer controlled the moment. Jack learned that truth is the greatest gift one can give themselves. Betrayal pushed him out of a lie, but it also freed him to begin again, on his own terms. With Julie, there were no games. And that was enough. From then on, what he wanted most was peace, clarity, and the certainty that he would never lose himself in someone else's lie again. Suspicious of your wife or daughter-in-law? Don't experience what you just saw. Check the link in the comments and get the ebook with valuable tips and investigator-approved resources to clear your doubts. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. See you next time.